Good day, viewers. It's I, NitroSilverNigel, or NitroSilverNigel, whatever you call me, it's all good. I'm here once more to tell you about awesome OC from my favorite website, Canterlot Avenue. Now we must do this, we must remember the old rule. Attention, please don't send the images to OC from this video. These images are commissioned and not your property copy. These artists have worked very hard for this, and the OC owner as well. Please respect the content creators behind this video and any other. If you need help creating OC, please contact the email below on screen. Thank you for your time for reading this and watching the video. Zephyrus is this griffin's name, but for the sake of my sanity, we're going to be calling him by his nickname, Zeph. Give me a moment. We're finally doing a griffin instead of a pony? So sweet! His hometown may have been the frozen north, but he now lives a nomadic lifestyle. He has no known occupation. This is the note from Zeph creator. So I'll be quoting him, not me. Because sometimes when creating a new OC or going back to an older one can be for the best. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you there, but you might be wondering why this live action skit in the Meet the OC series when you that narrated, but I felt that the best way to tell you about this character was to put myself on screen so the content creator knows how well I feel about this OC. Because I too once felt about my OC the same way he felt about his. Changing OCs from one to another is really the hard subject to do. It's like changing a bit of yourself and just changing a mask like you can see here on my face. Zephyrus was created a long time ago, so the creator never used it much since they was focused on using a whole other character at a time. Honestly, Zeph was tied to some bad memories at first, but it was something the creator moved a long time ago in his past. So they finally decided to bring Zeph back and fix him up, considering that his backstory really wasn't fleshed out the first time they first met. It was honestly taking a while to figure out exactly how he wanted to do Zeph and how he wanted to interact with other ponies at the time. The creator himself never really had able to put himself in a way to use the character. In fact, he used him as an antagonist instead of a protagonist in his own original story. Hard to believe that this awesome OC was an antagonist, not a protagonist. The creator himself never really wanted to be put on the mean guy when he was in the character. It clashed too much with his own personality. Hard to believe that. Even though after they finished Zeph's backstory, he was just in limbo for a very long time before being used again. But after a certain period of time that creator top life, he felt that he needed a change, a full reset. A full reset that was really needed. They didn't want just other people to see who they were. The creator themselves wanted to see who they have become now. Really. So they castrated their own old character and took on Zeph to be the main character for roleplay. The change in this person interacted with the character was very immediate. And when people say when you're better off, when people used to know or sour when using a new OC compared to the old OC you had, it was interesting how well those people can tell or used to be your friends. Because you just weren't, it's just all changing. It's hard to believe in this new age technology. A simple change in face can change how people look at you. And I know this as well. Not only just Zeph creator, but I too had to change OC as well. Back to the story we're going with the Meet the OC. Now that we're back on track, onto the show. In the frozen waterlands of the frozen north, a small nest of northern griffins were hatched. Among them a little gray and black male bearing white wingtips, and by little I do mean a runt. The little male squawked, stumbling around his litter mates while his mother looked on in pride and sorrow. Which is just sad because our little curse is back. And second, I thought Griffins was born, not hatched. She knew what would become of her son should the others of her tribe learn the supposed flaws of her son. And so without a word, one night after the tribe fell asleep, the large female wrapped her son up in a blanket and she carried him out and away from the tribe. She landed in the frozen wasteland and looked on with her small son. Gritting her beak, she set him down, pulling a small crude dagger from her wing. Oh no! She don't kill her own child! This is beyond our curse, it's straight up murder! Someone call the police! She raised it up, ready to plunge it into the little one. But before she can drive the blade home, he looked up at his mother and cheeped. Knowing that she could never harm or oppress the little son, she once looked around, and then she scowled. She scooped up her young. With a mighty flap of her wings, she soared into the night sky, all the way to the equestrian border, and she found herself wondering what to do next. Well, I wouldn't call it the mother of the year, but points to her for not killing her own son which should be obvious. Then she saw a little shack, a shack in the deep forest. It was secluded enough, and she swooped down once more. Landing in front of it, she paused, thinking, and with another look of her son, she set him down, knocking the door sharply before she flew off, leaving a flower to flutter down onto his young brow as he squirmed in his blanket. Kind of getting that fairy tale feeling with orphans. Is it just me or I'm paranoid? From a leafy branch, she watched the door open and a stallion popped out. He looked around at the cub and astonished, picking him up and cradling him. He lifted the feather from the mother's griffin and looked around as if he wanted to spot her. She did not come forward, nor did she move an inch. Seeing that she did not show up, the stallion face grew more concerned, and he took the cub inside, where he would live on and grow for the rest of his life there. Kinda sad for that fella. I wonder what's the story for this baby that he has now. The stallion soon became his father to the young griffin. Paul lived alone in the forest, relatively close to the homelands of the griffins. Taking a young orphan griffin proved to be a difficult task, considering he had no experience with any foals of any kind. But he did his best to give the young Zeph his life, a life worth living. This is good to a point to do for any other being. We should all take notes on this. As he grew older, his father never took him out away from the home. Not sure how the current society will react to a griffin being in their presence. He was heavily sheltered, which later turned to be out one of Zeph's biggest flaws, as he never got used to socializing with other ponies. Even still, Zeph remained happy for the way he was raised and never had any complaints to voice. Poor guy, living such a fulfilling life, but with some odd quirks of a sheltered child. Also to note that his father loved him greatly. The only sad part was that his father was a very loner. He can really show his emotion. Kinda sad that Zeph will only grow up without some emotional reinforcement. Is there a thing about neutral reinforcement and neutral punishment? I could have sworn we were taught that in high school. His father taught him as much as he could through the years of raising the griffin, and as teaching Zeph. He wished to travel Equestria and his outside lands. He wanted to experience much of the world as he could, even knowing the possible dangers that his father warned him about if he chose his path. Looks like Zeph is turning out to be such a young traveler at a young age. Good on him. Wanted his adopted son to live his dream not only for himself, but to see the world for his father the way he could never do. He made sure to take the time to prepare Zeph for the outside world. Basic combat training was eventually added to the normal lessons plan, so it was sure that Zeph could handle the world that he had never seen. His father attempted to train him with weapons of all sorts, but Zeph never had a real preference over them. So instead he was taught to use and fight with his own strength, to find that his fighting capability was an inheritance. All eyes on this young fighter. Hard work, hard work. Even with all this training being hammered into him, Zeph never put his heart into it. He was never the one destined to fight, ever knowing that one day he might have to. Though the lessons came to be good use later in life, and his father and him searched the forest for most of the things they can do for use for berries and plants for medicine. They would usually stay together, but in his father's faith in him, he asked him to split up to cover more ground. This already shows that Zeph is coming to his own. Let's see if it turned out for the good. The story sadly proved to be very fatal to Zeph. Zeph's churches were coming very empty, so he attempted to regroup with his father. The forest was very thick, but it didn't have to go if anyone knew how to search through it. Unfortunately, Zeph was not entirely used to traveling through the forest on his own, lost more and more so with every step. Already halfway through the video, and we can see there's nothing good to come out of Zeph's life so far. While searching for his father, he came across a figure hiding, perhaps a pony in distress. Without any thought, he approached the figure, only to find out that it was in fact one of his own, another griffin. His curiosity got the best of him, and tried to inspect the griffin, only to be attacked instantly. Zeph tried to reason with the other griffin, but there was something wrong with this one. It would seem like the instinct was running over his body, like he was empty. Oh snap, get that griffin some plot armor on. This is very scary. There were some poison plants in this area of the woods, and it wasn't the very realm impossibility this griffin mistakenly ate one. Zeph tried everything in his power to reason with the feral griffin, but nothing was getting through. With his back against the wall, Zeph used his training to keep himself safe from this beast, only managing to injure it several times. But nothing was working. This griffin continued to attack without any known motive, as if there was none at all. This kind of reminds me of a story where a stone man was fighting his three brothers. It's sad how it ended. Before long, Zeph was running out of the will to fight, and the feral griffin took the opportunity to pounce. A quick swipe to Zeph's phrase nearly took his eye out, but his own strength was able to keep the griffin off from blinding him with his own blood flowing over the fresh cutting of his eye. There was only one choice in this matter, and it seemed, but could Zeph bring himself to cross that threshold? Could he literally kill? Tune in the next 40 minutes to find out. Without much hope, he closed his eyes as he struggled to hold the griffin at bay, not wanting to see his own death. Without much hope, he closed his eyes as he struggled to hold the other griffin at bay, not wanting to see his own death. The web was quickly thrown way off of him, and he heard a grunt and a startled squawk. Without much hope, he closed his eyes as he struggled to hold the other griffin at bay, not wanting to see his own death. The web was quickly thrown way off of him, and he heard a grunt and a startled squawk. His eyes opened to see that his father put a blade freshly covered with blood from the griffin's neck, wiping it clean and placing it back in his sheath. No words were spoken, as they were simply returned home. The memory of that griffin forever burned into Zeph's mind. Poor guy, that scar will forever scar him both mentally and physically. Years passed, and Zeph continued to stay at home as he did when he was taken in. It was almost seemed like his dream has faded away, but his father knew it was still a small flame blowing inside the griffin. All he needed was a little push. He was given that push, but it was a way it would become more of a powerful blow to the chest. That's just not fair. Nothing can stay the same nor change at the same time. His father grew ill, with no signs of recovering. Without the knowledge of what had fallen on his father, he could only watch his condition grew worse and worse over time. Until finally it seemed the day has come that the bed that his father would lay on will become his grave. And even his father knew that much. This did not sound good for the both of them. He never was great with words, so he decided to stay with his father's side until the very end. His father has one final wish before his passing, as Zeph gazed at the scorching fire that once place was called home. He promised to live out his own dream for his father's sake. Much like any good story worth telling, someone close to the protagonist must die. That only cements that Zeph's story is worth telling. In his time of traveling, Zeph has met many ponies and other creatures, from famous models to common folk living simple ways of their lives. He never judged a pony by their stature in life, but their personality, which is how we should all judge orders, so let's do this. It can be difficult for Zeph to move through mostly populated areas. Given to his size, most don't see creatures like him on a daily day. He learned over time to ignore the whispers he hears from passing by strangers, since he knows that others will accept him for who he is. I would insert a joke here, but even I'm adjusting life like this, for being a burrowing pony. For those who know Zeph, they may describe him as nothing more than a big teddy bear. He may look intimidating, but he would never harm those unless he's provoked to. He had never been a fan of violence, and can you say he lived his life of pacifism so far? Cool. And I must say, that isn't a challenge for any pony out there. Zeph only has run into a few issues in his travels, with once and at the most. Most hotels and restaurants have accommodation for ponies, but not for many other creatures of the griffin's size. There has been many occasions where Zeph was easily broken a chair or a bed just by sitting on it. So he's known to sit on the floor when eating with company. And when staying in a hotel, he would just build a nest out of sort of pillows and blankets on the floor. Well, that's our boy, keeping his role with the struggle. Hashtag struggle is real. With fixing up Zeph and fleshing him out as a character, his bird half was modeled after a bird other than a sanded eagle. His bird half is actually a harpy eagle, which is a species of bird which is larger than average eagles and has an interesting feather pattern when fluffed up. It seemed like a perfect fit. As well, it's that time again when we talk about the fun stuff, the very personality traits. If you haven't already noticed, it's apparent that Zeph is a super nice griffin with some winning personality traits. He's a very patient and loyal friend that likes to have fun. He isn't much of a thrill seeker or an outcast as he may appear to be. He is, after all, a nice guy. His likes includes having friends over and going on a common adventure. His dislikes are rude beings that goes around judging him for his appearance. Also very weak chairs that can't support his weight. Well, that was a look at this awesome OC. I wish them the best of luck in their endeavors. Now it's time to end the video and hope that you, the faithful viewer, had a good time watching it. DJ, play us down! The music in this video is produced by B Key, a famous Brony musician in his own right, and the visual talents belong to Spritzles, a wonderfully brilliant artist in the Brony community. Please support their works by going to the links in the video description. I hope you enjoy the works as I did. Remember to smile.